Sun Devil fans, it is a Friday edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Whose favorite day of the week is not Friday? I know it's definitely both of ours, and we've got a very exciting guest for you today. We're going to be bringing on star running back for ASU this season, Rachaad White, joining us for the podcast today, essentially kind of breaking down his story, right? Talking about his years, or essentially his high school career, junior college career leading up to ASU, time at ASU as well, maybe some of his favorite plays, favorite games, things of that nature. And then kind of finishing with some Senior Bowl prep as he's getting ready for the upcoming draft in about 3 months. You're listening to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Sun Devil fans, as we had just mentioned, we're going to be bringing on our guest, Rachaad White, here in just a moment. But just really quick before we get into that, make sure you follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Cedrios. You can find Richie at RichieBrads with a Z 36. We have our Locked On Sun Devils Twitter page. That's at LO_Sun Devils. And then we have content that comes out Monday through Friday for you guys. So never miss an episode. Always click that subscribe button. So when we drop a nugget like this and we have a great guest on like we do today, you're going to get a notification right away saying, hey, Locked On Sun Devils has given you some new content. Whether that's on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, the Odyssey app, and now YouTube as well. Check it out, guys. Richie, without further ado, let's bring on our guest for today. Rachaad White, welcome to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. Thank you so much for giving us your time today, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me on the show. Very grateful and blessed.
Definitely glad to hear it, man. I don't know if you know, we've been talking about you for roughly, I don't know, Richie, like 5 days a week for the last couple months, given like football season or something.
Yeah, you and your teammate Darian Butler have to be like our favorite people to talk about on this show.
Hell yeah, that's my guy.
Yes, we love him. Yeah, love him.
So wait. Like he's claiming him. Like we say he's our guy, but does Rachaad get does he get first dibs because he actually played on the team with him? But he's on a different side of the ball. Like, does that even count as priority at that point?
Yeah, that's my dog. Before we just both split it off to do training. Yeah, we used to live together.
Really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
gotcha. Okay. Well, very cool, man. Obviously, you both are going through the draft process over the next couple months, and we'll talk about that maybe towards the end of the show here. But let's for our listeners, let's kind of start this off with your background now. A lot of people have known you for your career at ASU. Plenty of highlight plays, plenty of big games. But as far as your background goes, you played at, I was doing some research on this a week or so ago. It's Center High School where you played in Kansas City, Missouri, correct?
Yeah, that's where I went to high school at. Yeah, that's where I played at for my 4 years of high school. Center High School.
Okay. So now from there you went to, and let me get this right, I wrote this down. So you went to essentially a junior college before ASU, San Antonio College as well.
Yes. Okay. I went to Mount Sac. We call it Mount Sac, but Mount San Antonio College. It's in Southern California.
Awesome, man. So now, as Richie and I know, all of our listeners know, anyone who's watched college football over the last year and a half, know what kind of a player you are. Was that not necessarily the case coming out of high school? Did you not receive many, if at all, like Power 5 offers before you went to junior college?
Yeah, that wasn't the case. I didn't receive one Division I offer coming out of high school, but I just feel like everything worked out the way it was supposed to. Was I hurt at the time? Yeah. I mean, every kid would be hurt, if that's their dream, and you feel like you work for it and, your stats and everything, you put in work for it. But a lot of people just kind of like the feeling now where I had the knock coming out of high school is like kind of how fast is he? Like he doesn't seem like he's really that fast. Like he's not really doing this or doing that speed-wise. But, like I said, it all kind of, I ended up with a Division II offer to the University of Nebraska, Kearney. And just how I was raised. I was just grateful and humbled to, have that offer. And that offer was to play running back. And I had other offers to be an athlete, go to the school, be an athlete, which I was, really considering. But a lot of guys was like, A lot of my friends were just telling me like athletes normally go play defense, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to go play defense. But then I had the other schools, Division II schools, telling me like, but it's good though. Like you could touch the ball like kick returner and punt returner and stuff. Like you get find ways to get you the ball. And I was just, my heart was just at running back, so I ended up taking the only school that offered me a scholarship out of high school to play running back, and I ended up going there and kind of learning a lot of things, life lessons, just understanding knowledge and getting knowledge from like older guys that was there, and ended up deciding that it was kind of best for me to end up going JUCO to Mount Si.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Very nice. So just out of curiosity, when it did come time for you to end up getting those offers to go to a Power 5 school, and obviously you chose Arizona State, what was one of the key factors that kind of came into play when you decided to go to Arizona State? And out of curiosity, if you can answer, can you tell us the other schools that potentially came and talked to you about coming over to their program?
Yes, I had a good amount of schools. Honestly, a good amount of Mountain West Conference schools, schools such as Hawaii, Boise State. It's kind of hard. Colorado State. A good amount of schools out that conference came over, and then I had a couple Power 5 schools after I decommitted. From UCLA. I had like Texas Tech, Indiana, Tennessee, then end up getting ASU. But I mean, we'll just went into it, understanding, I don't know, just understanding like, being put in the right position, being in the right place, surround yourself with the right people, and just understand who can help you succeed off the field as well as on the field, and the scheme that is ran. And things like that. So who could just teach you and keep helping your game develop. So that's what it boiled down to. And I feel like Arizona State was the best place for me.
Well, we're thrilled that you decided to choose us. That's for sure.
I saw the UCLA decommit, I think through like 24/7 Sports last night, Richie. I was doing just a little bit more research on this. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, like another score for ASU, man. But so Rachaad, you're talking about scheme, but I got to be honest, the way you ran this last year, it didn't seem like scheme mattered. It just seemed like people were getting in your way on defense, and then you were just moving them out of the way anyways, right? They were just shopping carts, and all you're doing was pushing them out of the way. In my opinion, scheme might not have mattered as much in 2021. So essentially, like one other point you've made, right? Like you kind of like took what other schools maybe hadn't given you in this case. You didn't necessarily have the offers from some of the big schools that you might have after your sophomore year. But Richie and I know how you feel, man. Like we didn't get any big Division I offers from other schools, especially for football. Well, I guess first of all, I played golf. So that was kind of an issue. But man, we definitely know where you're coming from, know your backstory, and definitely wanted to give our other listeners that kind of context. I think we're definitely a little bit more excited to talk about your ASU career, even if it was only like a season and a half. So Richie, if you don't mind, let's take a quick break here and let's talk about our friends over at Get Upside.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, this is Richie Bradshaw, host of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about, Get Upside. Right now, our listeners are earning cash back on every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use the promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill-up cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Download the app for free and use that promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank. Some people like myself who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, an e-gift card for Amazon, and plenty of other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use that promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's promo code SCORE for Get Upside.
Locked On Sun Devils here. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. Connor Gios and Richie Bradshaw talking with Rachaad White, star running back for ASU. Now talking a little bit more about his career at ASU. And I'm going to read off some stats here. Rachaad, I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but just for our listeners, right? I think you played in about 15 career games between the COVID-shortened season last year as well as this year. But essentially, in those 15 games, had about 2,030 career scrimmage yards, essentially good enough for 135 yards per game, which easy to do. We've all done that before. Average almost 1.5 touchdowns per game with 22 total between the two seasons. 6.3 yards per carry on the ground, 11.9 per reception. Career high for a specific game was 202. It had 237 scrimmage yards in that game. Career high for receiving yards in a game was 86. Now, Rachaad, this is something Rich and I have been debating the last couple weeks on the podcast a little bit, depending on the source. So like Sports Reference or ESPN, your numbers differ just a little bit, and it may or may not matter to you. It matters to us for sure. ESPN has your career yards on the ground, right? I should say it was this last year, 2021.
Single season,
has 1,006 rushing yards. Sports Reference has it at a flat 1,000. Do you know which one it was off the top of your head?
Nah, I don't really even know which one it was. I don't even know. I just remember something about my coaches and teammates saying in the U of A game that I needed a such and such amount of yards. Do I want to get 1,000 yards? And I was kind of like, I might as well just kind of finish what, we all started. So I didn't know what it was. I just heard like get over 1,000 or get 1,000 yards. So I was cool with it.
There you go, man. So I didn't know if it necessarily mattered. I didn't know if you're going to come from like, you want your yards, get all the yards you can. Like, of course I had 1,006, or the fact you had a flat 1,000 and earned every single one of those yards. I would have respected it either way. Now, I kind of rounded off a lot of those statistics, but are there specific plays or games that stood out to you? So either this year or last year, something that you kind of take with you forever from your career at ASU? So either huge runs as a whole or either great games that you played in.
That's a good question. When
you play well in all of them, I get not remembering every single play in a game, so I get it. So if there's nothing that comes to mind, I think Richie and I can probably either rattle off a couple for you, just to at least jog your memory a little bit. I think the biggest one that I had mentioned, so as far as like total scrimmage yards, you played against USC this year. I don't know if you know this, but ASU fans hate USC, right? Big rival for you guys. That was a great game for you to have a career game. Had 202 on the ground, which was a career high, and 35 through the air. Scored 3 rushing touchdowns, which you've done twice in your career. There was a specific drive. Maybe you can, if this might jog your memory a little bit. There was a play. I think Jaden threw you a ball in the flat, and you probably took it for like maybe 25 yards, and you spun around like 2 or 3 times taking contact. And then I think on the next play, you housed it for like 50 yards on the ground again, taking contact. Does that ring a bell at all for you?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I liked the USC game. It was good.
We did
too. You like every game, though you win, and you wish you can, get every game you lost back. So, that's kind of how it go. I'll just probably say our best game was probably like Washington, just being down. Probably everybody thought we was going to lose or blow it. And everybody just rallied. We all rallied as a team, and, we just came back and won in that weather. I probably say that was probably the best, funnest. Like, we was the most hype off of that game.
Richie, you can back me up on this, but Sun Devils Twitter was totally not saying what the heck are they doing down, what was it, like 14-0 or something like that? But you totally came back and won, so totally believed in that the entire time.
Yeah, it was a hell of a game that we got to see, because it felt like a lost game at one point, and then all of a sudden you guys like just gritted your teeth and you said, no, we're not done yet. Like, we don't care how much time's on the board, we don't care how many points we're down. We're not done. We're fighting to the last second. And you guys clawed your way back to a huge victory in Seattle. So that was an awesome win. I would be remiss if we didn't bring up 70-7 and the fact that you guys absolutely obliterated U of A. So
wait, U of A, or do you mean Mexico Community College? Some school down south.
Some school down south, exactly. You guys absolutely crushed U of A. And if I remember, you had a good game too.
Yeah, I had a decent game.
I unfortunately will say I did not watch that game live, and it's one of the biggest regrets of my life because I remember looking at like Bleacher Report or wherever I was checking the score and was like, what the hell's going on? Like, why are we scoring so many touchdowns? And then we were up like, I don't know, 21-0, I think at one point. I checked 10 minutes later and we scored 2 more touchdowns. So hell of a game, man. We've talked about the rivalry, Richie, I think in the past. I'm sure that was the biggest margin of victory for a Sun Devils win. And you getting to play a huge part of that, I'm sure is definitely something you'll be able to take with you as well.
Yeah.
But that was
fun.
sorry to cut you off. That was the second career game where you scored 3 touchdowns as well. So you did that twice, USC, and then that was the other one as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that was very fun.
So let's go ahead and talk about maybe some of your favorite either players or coaches in your time there. I know either people kind of graduating, moving on. You probably had a lot of the same core players around you at the time, but is there certain players that you might have either friendships for life because you play with them over the last year and a half?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say my guys like Darian, Jaden, Ricky.
Jaden's cool. He's pretty cool.
I got some guys, Ladarius Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mess with really all the guys like Donovan West. Like I mess with all the guys for real. They all mess with me for real. And friendships, like for life. They'll talk forever for sure.
Yeah, there definitely seemed to be a lot of chemistry among all the ASU players this year. Everyone knew going into this year with all the juniors and the seniors that you guys were going to have some great chemistry with each other, and it definitely showed up. Even in the wins and the losses, you could tell that you guys were always in sync. You guys were always having fun together, and the goal was always to go out there and put out the best effort. And I feel like you guys, at the end of the day, left everything on the field. I feel like there wasn't really anything where you look back and you're like, man, I should have tried harder here, because I think you guys truly put all the effort in that you could have put into it.
Yeah, it was awesome. We kept, it was, tough season, tough battle. It was just football, we can't never complain. You kind of wish you could have go in every game with your full team, healthy, everybody healthy, but it's nicks and bruises, things and that. You had opportunities, and we came up short, like you said, some games, and it was sickening, but we eventually ended up bouncing back, and that was good to see.
You missed 2 games this year, correct? Right, the Senior Bowl, which you had, or not the Senior Bowl, sorry, the bowl game against Wisconsin, which you had opted out for, and then against Washington State, correct?
Yeah.
I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but Rich and I went to 1 game live this season, and it just so happened to be Washington State. And I don't know if something ever happened in pregame. I don't remember. But I think they even had you listed as a starter, and then Chip was out there, which we're still big Chip Trainum fans. But we're like, where's Rachaad? And we were wondering that for the first quarter, but obviously get it. It happens. You played great the other 11 games this year. So if we didn't get to see you live in that 1 game, I'm sure we'll get to see you play in the NFL quite a bit from there. So you did mention Ricky Pearsall. I want to backtrack for just a second. That was one of my other favorite plays. I think it was against Colorado. Jaden threw it out to Ricky, who then threw it to you, and you scored from 30 yards out. It was earlier in the season, Richie. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. It was a cute little trick play that.
We can't call it cute, dude. He scored from 30 yards.
I'm not saying cute in a bad way.
You already said cute.
It was cool. It was one of those, Ricky did it twice this year. He went 2 for 2 and threw a touchdown to Rachaad, and he was the big play machine when we would get him underneath, and all of a sudden it's Ricky's got an arm. Ricky's gonna push Jaden Daniels for a starting job. Not really, but I mean,
Julian Edelman's
pretty good. Yes, he is Julian Edelman light. I remember saying that a lot of times.
Sorry, were you gonna say something there, Rachaad?
No, it's fine.
One thing I think we have to ask you about, and this is when they made the coaching hire for Herm Edwards. A lot of players, so I shouldn't even say we're only a couple of years older than you, so essentially same generation, right? Grew up with a lot of the same things. A lot of guys our age kind of grew up watching Herm Edwards on TV, seeing that personality. Is he kind of the same guy, in the locker room, on the field, that same kind of guy on TV, just somebody you would absolutely want to go hang out with after practice, go get a drink with, maybe if you weren't 21 at the time, but somebody you would absolutely like to hang out with on and off the field?
Yeah, Coach Herm. He just he just kind of Coach Herm. Like he just different, a different human being.
Okay.
He just like I don't know. It's like he reminds me. I don't know. It's like a. How can I put this? It's like a sensei or something, like a karate instructor, like a master or something, like where it's like, he just at peace. Like he always at peace. Like nothing really like kind of gets to him or nothing can really, set him off. Like, and he just kind of one of them guys that just, like I said, he's just so cool. Got not a lot, has not a lot of knowledge and he just, like you said, just awesome to be around. He gonna be fun. He gonna be energetic. He gonna talk his mess, and he's just gonna be awesome.
Yeah, we talk a lot about Herm Edwards, and me and Connor have said many a times that he will forget more about football in his lifetime than me and Connor will ever learn. The dude is just beyond knowledgeable. I am curious there. So one of the big draws when Herm came to Arizona State was because he was in the NFL, both as a player and a coach. He was going to get this draw for the Sun Devils to where he could basically come into your living room, sit down with your parents and you and say, hey, I know what it takes to get to the pros. If your kid comes to this program, I'm gonna be able to get him ready for the next step. And clearly that's worked because we've got a ton of guys that are being talked about in the draft this year. But was that one of the main draws for you when you did decide to come to Arizona State? Was Herm one of like the big marks that the team had that was like, yeah, no, I'm definitely going to Arizona State to go play for Herm?
Honestly, for me, like me personally, nah. I mean, I respect Coach Herm a lot, but just because it was Coach Herm Edwards doesn't mean that I was gonna be like, all right, I'm coming out the gate. And when they had offered my mom and them, my family, other family, we was on a Zoom call, and we had got off the Zoom call, and I was just kind of like, my mom like it's a no brainer for me, but me, I was just like, nah, it's not no brainer for me though. I just needed to, learn a little bit more about what they had going on, and just see, just see if it was really, the right fit for me. So, like, Coach Herm, the name, speaks, and there's a lot of respect for it. But for a guy like me, I'm not the type of guy that just be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go because you got this much stature or status, because that might not be the fit for me. It might not.
Okay,
be.
but how many other schools had a sensei like on their coaching staff, man? Come on.
I mean, that was all for me. Not a lot of them had.
Sure.
Like Coach Herm, that a guy that was just so calm and things like that. Like, he was so poised, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm a very poised individual.
Sure.
I'm very chill, laid back, just like Coach Herm. So it's kind of like it was the right fit, but it was just like, I needed a little more. I needed to see, I needed to weigh my pros and cons of everything, what was going on.
I think that's definitely great to hear, especially because a lot of the media talks about that, exactly what Richie was talking about. Herm being such a big draw because he knows the NFL essentially might know maybe a better pathway to get there, but still hearing that from another player's mouth saying that, like, that's great, but it's not maybe all it's cracked up to be, right? You had talked earlier in the podcast about making sure the scheme was right, making sure everything was going to benefit you as well. So definitely something great to hear from a player's perspective. So that was kind of your career in a nutshell at ASU. Let's go ahead and move on to the last part of the podcast, talking essentially about kind of your prep for maybe the Senior Bowl coming up, maybe some draft prep as well, and then maybe we can get to some fun NFL questions there. But first, we're going to talk to you about our friends over at Built Bar. So Connor Gio's here for you guys. If you've been listening to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast for anywhere more than a day, you've heard us talk about Built Bar, right? And especially now that it's time for New Year's resolutions, it's about getting fit, eating healthier, and making sure Built Bar is in your plans. The thing about Built Bar is they're protein bars, but they taste like a candy bar and maybe even better. Built Bar is easy, makes it easier to stick to your resolutions because it tastes so good. You're going to want to eat it, unlike any other protein bar, which can be chalky, waxy, or maybe even taste a bit like a chemical spill. So Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. And essentially, most of their Built bars, they contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to an actual candy bar, which has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. They're not even comparable. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, at least you can eat something that tastes good and is good for you. That way, when you're enjoying a delicious Built bar, you can almost count it as a workout. And there's so many flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many, many more. In fact, Built is coming out with a new limited time flavor. Essentially, so check out built.com often to see what that new flavor is. So here's the offer. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 50% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at builtbar.com. Locked on Sun Devils here, essentially diving into the last segment here with our guest, Rachaad White, who's been generous enough to give us his time today. Now talking about the Senior Bowl, which is just around the corner. Now, Richie, I'll give this over to you just a little bit. Like you kind of know the Senior Bowl schedule, right? And I'm sure, Rachaad, you know what's going to be going on. You've got some practices coming up, maybe a little bit of media time as well before the big game. Richie, I'll go ahead and maybe hand it over to you specifically for the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the process to a certain extent, but obviously, Rachaad, you're getting behind the scenes and everything like that. I'd like to first just start off with this. What was your reaction when Jim Nagy gave you guys the call and told you, "Hey, we want you to come down to Mobile for the week"?
My reaction, because it was during the season. I forgot at what point or what game. Like my reaction wasn't really, I don't know, like I'm a very like calm, like I said, poisoned individual. So like it's like different. Like it means a lot, and I'm truly blessed and grateful. But at the same time, like we was during the season, so I'd be locked in the moment, like just like right now, like Senior Bowl, like even though it's next week, it's like that haven't even crossed my mind. Like I get there when I get there. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
When my flight leave on Sunday, so that's just kind of how I think. Like what's like what I got going on tomorrow. That's on, you know what I'm saying? That's just
there you go.
So when I got that though, I was truly happy. My family, everybody was happy, and we was truly grateful and blessed, honestly, to get that. And it was just like kind of like it wasn't a relief, but it was kind of like you just know, like the work you put in is kind of what you get out. And it just make you want to keep getting better and keep striving just for greatness.
Don't worry,
man.
Just like your family, I'm sure Rich and I freaked out enough for everybody, especially you involved. So definitely cool to see.
Yeah, we were absolutely like just to the moon happy when we saw that you got invited to the Senior Bowl. We were only upset that some of your teammates didn't get to go to Mobile, but a lot of them are going to Vegas for the Shrine Bowl, which we're super excited for them about that too. On the topic of the Senior Bowl, just curious, what has your preparations been looking like? So we all know that you opted out of the Las Vegas Bowl, which quite frankly, I would have done the same thing. I feel like preparing for the draft and my future is top priority. So definitely no one here would like fault you for that at all. I think it was absolutely the right decision, and as well as your other teammates too who did the same thing. But what has been your process since the final game of the season against U of A? What's a day in the life of Rachaad White look like?
My process after U of A was just getting healthy, just getting back to 100%, honestly. So it was kind of like getting introduced. I think I took a week off, and then I got acclimated and introduced to end up deciding to train at Exos, and just kind of went there and got acclimated, got introduced to who I'll be working with, and I was getting a lot of like physical therapy, so I was getting a lot of PT, just things like that on my body, and while at the same time like doing like some light, some easy like welcoming in, warm up workouts or whatever. And I was doing that for like 2 weeks or so, and then like took a break for Christmas, and then we started back. We started up January, I believe it was 3rd. That was a Monday, and we've been hitting it head on ever since.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's awesome. We love to get a little behind the scenes peek at what guys are going through when they start that draft process, because there's been plenty of guys who will opt out of the bowl games, and like it's just so interesting to me to find out what that process looks like when you officially take that next step for the draft. And obviously that had to be a very exciting time for you to officially put your name in the draft, which is such a prestigious honor in itself. So going into Mobile, you're going to be playing on what they call the national team, which feels different because what I'm used to the few times that I've gone is like the North team and the South team. But according to the website, you're on the national team, and there's 4 other running backs that you're going to be working out with. But the biggest name there is Michigan's Hassan Haskins. So
you mean the biggest name there is Rachaad White. The second biggest name is Hassan Haskins.
Biggest competition. How about that? Yes. There you go. So what are you looking forward to doing down on the practice field that's going to make you stand out compared to the rest of your competition?
Honestly, I don't even think about that. I mean, like, the other competition of who I'll be going against, really, I know y'all probably hear this saying a lot, in reality, you in competition with yourself. I mean, you set goals for yourself. You got goals for this and that and the things you want to accomplish. Like, like, for example, I got goals of what I want to run in the 40, not what everybody else think I should run or what I should expect for somebody else to, you know what I'm saying? So, I haven't really been like thinking about what I could set apart for them. I mean, I could go there. All I want to do is go there and control what I can control, just be me. I mean, do the same thing. It's football. So I think it's kind of, it comes natural to you. And, you just go there, work hard, show your work ethic. And I go there and kind of, basically do the same thing I did at Arizona State. I ain't going to do nothing different. I'm going to go there, catch some punt returns, kick returns. I'm going to go there, catch the ball out the backfield, run the ball, block, just do everything, same thing like I did at Arizona State. And then I'm going to leave it up to, what's left and what everybody else think.
Yeah, the one thing you got going for you is you do everything great. There's not really a true quote unquote weakness to Rachaad White's game. The dude catches the football, he scores touchdowns, he can bounce it outside, he can go between the tackles. Basically, just put the ball in his hands, and he's going to do something incredible with it.
If it's any consolation, like when you're talking about the 40, we don't care what your 40 looks like. We know they're going to look at that radar gun. It's going to say this dude can ball. So that's all we care about,
Yeah.
So now let's use the last couple minutes that we have here and just talk about maybe the NFL a little bit. I know you've already talked about kind of being in the moment, but maybe dream down the road just a little bit. First of all, like you wore number 3 at Arizona State. Is that the number you would like to wear in the NFL? And if not, is there a backup option?
I mean, like you said, if it presents itself, I want to stay in a single digit. It'd probably be number 3. I like number 7 and number 3. I believe the numbers, fit me well. So it just all depends on if it presents itself, if they present themselves, and if they up there for grabs for me to take.
If you need another number after that, somebody in this podcast likes number 34. So if that's available too, but definitely get 3 and 7. Those are great numbers. Hopefully if you get drafted by like a Seattle or something, Rush just gives you number 3, but the 3 and 7, definitely great choices. Now I know at the end of the day, like your goal is not only to get to the NFL, but you want to succeed, right? If you could choose one specific team to be drafted by, is there maybe someone that sticks out to you or don't necessarily care?
Nah, I mean, I just be telling myself I want to go to, like I said, a good scheme. I mean, I feel like I could fit in a lot of people's scheme, but, at the same time, it's just like, you kind of, be in tune to reality. You got to be realistic, and, the better the scheme is, the better you perform. And you see that kind of with a lot of guys. Honestly, coaching helps out a lot, helps players out a lot and putting guys in the right position, the right spots. So, I don't really have like a favorite team. I mean, only thing I say, if I could stay in Arizona, that'd be lovely. You got to ship nothing out. You got to take everything, I got to take everything with me or pack up a big truck and things like that. That'd be lovely. And plus, my daughter lives out here and things like that, so it'd be a smooth transition. But if not, you got to control what you can control, and I'll be blessed, honestly, to go to anybody who wants me.
Hey man, I love James Conner as much as the next guy, but a backfield of Rachaad White and Benjamin sounds like a Arizona State, big Cardinal fans' dream. So would definitely be all for that. But Richie's a big Baltimore Ravens fan, so it's hard enough watching Brendan Ayuk.
We need a guy. We need someone
seriously.
with JK and Gus Edwards needing some time to get healthy again. We need that three-headed monster. We always like three guys. You come be our third guy. Number three's open. You can keep number 3, and you guys will all get, I don't know, like 200 carries because we're not going to throw the ball. We're just going to run it. And when we do throw it, guess who's going to get all the catches? That'd be you, my friend. So let me ask you this. Naturally, when you grow up and you play the running back position, you always have idols, right? Guys that you want to base your game around. Who are some of the guys that when you were growing up, you were like, you know what? When you play backyard football, right? You're like, I'm Adrian Peterson right now. Nobody stops me. Who were some of your guys that you modeled your game after?
I mean, I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. So at the time I was growing up, they had Jamal Charles.
Yes, sir.
So I had Jamal Charles shirts and things like that, like with the number on it and things like that. I like Jamal Charles a lot, and as I started growing up, I like a guy like Le'Veon, and I was I respected and liked Le'Veon a lot with his game and what he brought to the game of football, and I was a big AP fan for sure. I just like the same thing, like what he brought to the game of football, and that was kind of really about it though. But like model my game after, nobody really. I just always kind of wanted to be me. Everybody got their different style and different things like that. So I always wanted to be me, but you always wanted to take from other people's game.
Mm-hmm.
And like everybody got them sayings, things like that, like the sayings they got nowadays, how they were saying Kobe, everybody shoots a shot and say Kobe or something. You try to do a one-hand pass, you talking about Odell or something, like I always want to do something. I want to create something to where kids and everybody that's up and coming, where they like shot or something like that.
There you go.
So
we will start the hashtag. I have my daughter right now. While she may or may not play a ton of football, we'll get that going with the next generation, man. More than happy to do that. But Richie, not all of us were Adrian Peterson. Not all of us were all day growing up. I was only sometimes, depending on how well I ran the ball. So
I never was. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But Rachaad, those are great choices, my man. I think we've taken enough of your time today. Just thank you so much again for coming on the podcast. We definitely appreciate your time. Are definitely looking forward to. No matter where you go, if you stay out of the NFC West and the AFC North, we would definitely appreciate it. But obviously, I understand that's not always within your control, and definitely hope the best for you in your career, man.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys having me on. Truly was great. I appreciate this so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It was our pleasure, Rachaad.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Sun Devils your first listen every day. Again, we are free and available on all platforms. Make sure you follow Richie and I on Twitter at Cedrios and Richie at RichieBrads with a Z 36. You can also follow our Locked On Sun Devils Twitter page at LO_Sun Devils. And again, as I mentioned towards the top of the podcast, content that comes out Monday through Friday, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or the Odyssey app, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Thank you so much again for making us your first listen. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets. They're going to be your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Again, it is a free and available on all platforms. You keep it locked on right here with the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.